Salutations, dear viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about why the Trump Kim Jong-un conference may never happen. Well, the United States and North Korea have agreed to a summit to take place in Singapore in the next few weeks, and it seemed to be a diplomatic coup for Kim Jong-un and arguably for President Trump. They both hailed it as a success for them. It's staggering that we got to this point. Remember, only a few months ago, the two countries were at daggers drawn. People felt it was nuclear brinksmanship. Red lines were set by President Trump, who said that if North Korea threatened something, not did anything, threatened to do something, then he would respond with fire and fury. Fire and fury, one can only understand that as war. What else could that possibly mean? Anyway, so the North Koreans crossed his red line and he did nothing about it. So his bluff was called. Anyway, relations then slowly improved, in no small measure due to the Winter Olympic Games being hosted by the Republic of Korea. In common parlance, that's South Korea. There was a joint Korean team between the People's Democratic Republic of Korea and the Republic of Korea. That's North and South. And this really improved relations between the two parts of the Korean Peninsula. So they've been quite cordial for the past couple of months. Now, Trump hailed this as a triumph for himself. He's very eager to take credit for things. And his poll rating's gone up slightly, partly because of this. So the summit with North Korea might be a good thing. Harold Macmillan said, better jaw than war. It'd be better to have negotiation, even if nothing comes out of it, than fighting. Better still, negotiation that leads to actual progress. But anyway, better talking than fighting. No one would dispute that. So it was a typically bold gambit from Donald Trump. Bold, of course, being a more positive way of saying rash. It was possibly stupid, ill-advised, not even advised at all. Didn't seek counsel from experts in the field. No American ambassador to South Korea for months. So he's not drawing on the vast experience of the State Department. He showed a typical seat-of-the-pants attitude to a very sensitive and indeed perilous diplomatic situation. So now Trump has jeopardized his whole party, saying that North Korea must get rid of its nuclear weapons and renounce any ambition to possess nuclear weapons. Well, the North Koreans didn't set any such precondition, and by issuing such press releases, the Trump White House might stop this whole thing going ahead. It's imperiled this very delicate trust that they've built with the North Koreans, and the improved relations on the Korean Peninsula may well be down to the Koreans themselves, to the South Korean President Kim Jong-un, and not so much owing to the United States. As for peace in Korea, well, there have been many false dawns. Remember, the two Koreas are technically at war and have been since 1950. So every few years this happens, that there are meetings, there are exchanges of expressions of goodwill, there's food aid to North Korea, South Korea sets up factories in North Korea, there's investment, and the situation improves for a while. But then they hit a rock in the road, and for various reasons, the North Koreans kick South Koreans and others out of their country, and sanctions go up. And there's a lot of bellicose rhetoric that's firing across the border. A South Korean warship might be sunk, and more kidnappings and so forth. And it ramps up tensions, and it becomes dangerously close to all-out war. So no doubt in a few years' time, North Korea will revert to type. I want to be proven wrong. I would like this to be a breakthrough for all time. There'll be peace and liberty for people in all of Korea, and Korea to reunite peacefully and all that. However, I think it highly improbable. Now, Trump is surely too ignorant to know all this, that this is sort of the life cycle on North Korea. In his naivety, he seems to trust Kim Jong-un, whom he has praised to the moon. He seems to have a much higher opinion of Kim Jong-un, this horrifically cruel tyrant with his insane cult of personality, than he does rival American politicians, or even those proponents of democracy in the rest of the Western world. They don't get praise heaped on them the way Kim Jong-un does. Little Rocket Man, as he once contemptuously referred to him. So Kim can be just as capricious and dishonest as Trump. So perhaps Donald Trump has met his match. Maybe he's outfoxed Trump. So either side could pull out. Both leaders are quite conceited, are used to getting their own way, are full of bluster. So it could all go very badly wrong. It could all end in tears. It might make the situation worse. I think it was Kissinger who said a meeting with the US president ought to be the climax of building a diplomatic relationship and not the very start. Because if it goes badly wrong, well, what happens then? Then they go back to the brink of war once more. So I desperately want to see this succeed. However, I'm afraid to say I am skeptical. And that's the thing about Trump, is he's too all or nothing. It would have been wiser to be cautiously optimistic about the possibility of improving things. Why on earth would Kim Jong-un give up his nuclear arms? That's the one thing that makes him important. Why are we paying any attention to him? His regime is quite willing to starve millions of its people to death in order to acquire nuclear weapons, as they did in the 1990s. So that's their only card. Why would they give that up? For money? If they give up money and then easily be defeated. People would look to Gaddafi. He renounced his nuclear weapons program in the wake of the liberation of Iraq. 8 years later, he was overthrown and killed by a NATO-backed rebellion. So Kim Jong-un has surely concluded that being without nuclear arms would pose an existential threat to his regime, and therefore he must have them no matter how high the cost. He wants to pocket whatever concessions he can without renouncing nuclear weapons. He might make noises about it, but any commitment from him to get rid of nuclear weapons would be utterly insincere.